What's happening, guys? Happy Thursday morning, and welcome to week one of the NFL season, a place we thought we would never be. Due to that Rona, people thought that the world was coming to an end, but God bless the NFL, the owners, the players, and everyone involved. They have been, they have been very trustworthy and determined to get this thing done, whether it was free agency, the rookie draft, camp, everything. It's not been what it normally has been, but the NFL has done a tremendous job of getting this shit show on the road. But I'll tell you who's not a shit show. He is my co-host. He is the good doctor. His name is Dr. Kyle. You can follow him on Twitter at DWZ _ Dr. PT. Dr. PT, what's good in New York City, kid?
Not a shit show tonight, but on many a weekend, I might be a shit show. So you caught me in the right mood.
You know, it's funny. You and I were talking via Twitter DM over the weekend, and you were like, I'm a little sauced.
Yeah, where was I?
I think you were in Houston.
No, I was in Houston for work the past couple of days. That's a little bit of a look into my professional life. But the weekend I was in New Jersey with my wife's family for some Labor Day shenanigans.
Did you do what I told you to do and get down on some betting apps while you were there? Use your in-laws and your missus family to create a faux address?
I did not this weekend, but I'll make sure to.
The ones. So I downloaded William Hill, Nevada. I downloaded their app because that's a very big sports book, and they want you to take pictures of the front and back of your driver's license. I don't know if that's to confirm that I am an Indiana resident. I don't know if it's to confirm my age. But I was like, man, I guess I could see it from like a legal standpoint. You know, they want to make sure that you're not 12, you know, or that you're not like a resident of the state of New York, which you are, to avoid some shenanigans.
I got my ways around it. It's going to happen. I'll figure it out.
I mean, you just text me and say, hey, man, get me down on X. We're going to talk about all the things we're getting down on here in just a second, but we've got a lot to cover. So we're going to get into this in the body of the show. We were totally expecting player props for week one to be available as we went live on YouTube on Wednesday night for Thursday morning podcast release. That is not the case. Now, we're going to talk about a couple of props that we anticipate being able to get down on this weekend. And what we will do is both myself and Kyle will do a short 5-10 minute YouTube live video. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss that, go to YouTube, The Dynasty Warzone, and subscribe. Turn notifications on, as well as injury stuff. Now, Dr. Kyle, you've not had enough time to cover this, but like we'll give them a cheap free example right now. So it came out today that Mike Evans has missed some practice time with a hamstring, and he missed the back end of last season with a hamstring injury. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most nervous, how nervous are you for this man's hamstring?
I think I'm right in the middle. I'm not lukewarm. I think I'm about lukewarm. Like, I'm not cold, but I'm not hot. You know, I would be curious to see what hamstring it is this year relative to last year, because I think Evans has had some hamstring issues in previous seasons. I'll be looking at to see what his practice availability is the next few days, but he might be a wait and see guy this weekend if you got better options.
Yeah, he was a guy I was already looking to fade in like a DFS format or in like a tournament, where I can. Maybe in the deep dynasty league, you could avoid playing him. I think he's had 2 catches in his last 2 games against Marshawn Lattimore as is. You have a limited, camp with Tom Brady, and then, you're playing on a gimpy hamstring. That could be bad news bears.
Yeah.
So this is going to be something we're going to talk about DFS here in just a little bit in the pod, but you might be willing to take a flyer on an OJ Howard or a Cameron Brate or maybe even a Gronk.
Sure.
Would that be something you'd be willing to do? Is this something that popped in my head as I was tweeting with the Boys in the GOAT District podcast?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Tom Brady has loved his tight ends in the past, especially in the red zone in the middle of the field where things can be wide open when those big guys are getting down the field on the outside.
Absolutely. So we've got some betting stuff. We're going to talk about our week one best bets, things that we like, things that we don't, some likes, some leans. We're going to jump into that in just a second. But do have a lot of things to remind you guys of very, very quickly. So the Debbie Show with Kane, Jerry, Josh, and Shane will be dropping sometime this month. They got about 3 or 4 Mondays left in the calendar month of September, but they're going to be really dropping names that you need to know as a Dynasty player. So be on the lookout for that. If you're subscribed to the YouTube channel or if you're subscribed to the podcast feed, you will not miss it on the Monday when it drops. The Dynasty Warzone, man, we had a banger yesterday. That would have been Wednesday drop on the pod, Tuesday live on YouTube. And again, YouTube streams, man. Our man, Matty Big Chest, he is our graphics designer, and he has done a great job with his Matty's Table Talk series. I think he's dropped 4 videos over there on our YouTube stream already. So if you're not already subscribed, again, Dynasty will go to the Dynasty Warzone on YouTube. Subscribe, boom, you will not miss any of this. We just redrew for the autographed DK Metcalf jersey. The winner was Tay JC3. The live stream of that, the shit show live stream, and then the real live stream were both filmed on 9/9 before this very podcast. And guess what, Dr. Kyle? I've got one more full rebuild Dynasty contractor on Friday. What do you think about that?
Whoa. Okay.
So
I like that. Right as the season's starting.
yeah, it was a last minute special for a good dude. His name's Brian. This guy he calls himself the FF_junkie, and my man's been picking up orphans left and right, and this was an ugly one. We spent about 45 minutes covering this team, and after this episode that will drop this weekend of week one, I'm going to start doing recap shows. I've got to get you on there, a little peek behind the curtain. When I rolled out the contractor, I wasn't sure how this was going to go, so I grabbed Dr. Kyle here, and the very first one was you. How's that roster looking, by the way?
You know, it is in what I would call like Memphis approved rebuild mode. I've sort of, I've booted the season more or less, but I got a couple of young quarterbacks. I have a very deep young wide receiver roster. I have pretty much no assets at running back, but I'm okay with that right now, and I'll let everybody try and pump them to me, thinking that I need them, but that's going to be the last piece we add.
Yeah, and you can check that out over at my good buddies, the Dynasty Happy Hours podcast feed. Subscribe over there. By the way, I appreciate all of you that have left ratings and reviews for the Dynasty Happy Hour feed and put my name in the reviews. That means a ton. And then let us hit some sponsors. First of all, our newest one is mybookie.ag. What do you know about MyBookie, Dr. Kyle?
Oh, we're going to be active on MyBookie this year.
100%. They are the official sponsor of the Big Bet podcast. They go hand in glove with what we do. A lot of the lines and over and unders we're going to provide on tonight's show were provided by mybookie.ag. Our promo code will not be active until next week for a deposit bonus. But if you go to my Twitter handle at DWZ Memphis or the show's Twitter handle at Dynasty Warzone, there is a link that would give us direct credit for you signing up at mybookie.ag. And that would get you 100% deposit match up to a certain amount. I want to say it's $1,000. Don't quote me on that because I don't have the exact link. Yeah, I saw your eyes light up, Dr. Kyle. You're a degenerate. I love that. I am too.
I got the the FanDuel promotional email, and it comes up on my phone. I just see the little header quick as a deposit match, and I open it. It's like up to $10. I'm like, I'll see you when maybe you got 25 or 50. But if they're gonna match up to 1,000, oh man, I will be very active this year.
Yeah, and it's one of the better matches in the industry. A lot of people are doing 100% matches. Some are up to $100. Some are up to $5. I'm pretty sure this is $1,000, but you'll know for sure when you go to my Twitter handle or the show's Twitter handle and click that link in the bio. So that is our official gambling partner of the fabulous Big Bet. We obviously have the Dynasty Warzone Patreon. That's for all you hardcore Dynasty and fantasy degenerates that want the best group chat in the league, in the world, along with an extra podcast every week and one-on-one help with your rosters with me, with my co-host over there, Jerry. at the Dynasty War Zone, and a lot more. It's a community of good people who love talking fantasy football. And then, Doctor, you're a doctor of physical therapy, so you stay in pretty good shape.
I do my best. I'm also sort of up until today, I was in a very unique situation working in an office in one of, if not the best gym in the country in Soho, New York. But sad to say that gym will not be reopening due to COVID. So, there will be better times there, but, I've gone from some heavy powerlifting and shifted to a bit more conditioning and some outdoor kettlebell work of late. So yes, always doing my best.
Outdoor kettlebell work. I dig it the most, man. If you're an athlete or you're into what they call athleisure or athletic fashion wear, check out my newest sponsor. This is one that I wear. If you go to the show's Instagram at Dynasty Warzone, there is actual pictures of me doing actual workouts, lifting heavy ass weight in my brand, Hate Brand Goods, and that's the HVIII.com. And if you use the promo code Memphis at checkout, you will save a little something off your purchase price. The joggers are amazing. Now, here's the one caveat I will say about this. This company makes small batch stuff. They're very sharp business people at the Hate. So they make X number of goods. You'll see some of the shorts that I'm wearing. I'm wearing one of the T-shirts tonight. It's one of the OG T-shirts of the line. I've been a supporter of this brand for a long time. And if you're looking for something a little bit different to mix in, go into the gym, and it's highly functional, I am never going to be confused for who's the best athlete in the NFL.
Oh, Lamar?
Yeah, he's definitely. How about Darius Leonard?
Oh, okay.
Not bad.
No.
Jonathan Taylor.
Homer.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here spitting all straight Colts, but I love this stuff. For the gym, you can run in it, you can lift in it, you can go swimming in it. It's got the swimwear gimmick. So head over to thehate.com, use the promo code Memphis. Again, the website is thehviii.com. And if you want the link, it's also in the show's Twitter handle, as well as the podcast description of the podcast you're listening to. It's in the show description. So with all that being said, Dr. Kyle, are you ready to talk about some week one?
Let's get into it. We've been waiting how many fucking months for this day?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Now, we don't have a lot on Thursday night. At least I don't. Is any of your bets Thursday night's week one game?
My bets are not the Thursday night game, but I am, if somebody's going to do some DFS with the Thursday night game, I'm intrigued by like a Randall Cobb wide receiver start with Brandon Cooks quad being maybe a little bit bulky. Though I've heard from a good source that all of the receivers in the Houston offense have looked good, and Deshaun is clicking with the offense, and the running backs are getting involved in that pass game this year. So I think some cheap guys in that Texans offense is going to be a good look, but not touching the over-under or the spread.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, mybookie.ag. I'm looking at Houston getting 9.5 on the road at Kansas City, over and under 54. If you bet Houston straight up to win the game outright, you're plus 330 on the money line. So none of that really tickles my fancy. I didn't see any player props that I love right away. I would be looking for some David Johnson ones. Obviously, I think Houston's going to be behind and in catch-up mode. And if you can get a David Johnson total yardage bet, what would be a number of total yards of David Johnson you would feel comfortable with? And obviously, it would have to be rushing and receiving for me to even want to touch it.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming these will be out more tomorrow and the weekend, because obviously you can't put a lot of these out until they know the starting lineup or close to. Usually FanDuel gets them out early, but I didn't see them anywhere across the board. I had to go across the pond, actually, to get one of my player props we're going to cover later in the show. Anything that you would have to see to get down on DJ?
I think DJ maybe in like the 79 range combined yardage over under. I think I like that. I would go over there.
That would be a smash. I think you're probably going to see this somewhere around like 89.5, 94.5 is what I think they'll do. I could see them saying somewhere in the neighborhood of like 65 yards rushing, 30 yards receiving, And I think I would bet the over comfortably up to about 94. Again, I think they're going to be behind. If Brandon Cooks is limited, what's this offense look like?
Mm-hmm.
Come from behind mode is the feeling. Remember, this was the team that was up like 20 or 24 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. It ended up losing by 20.
They did beat him in the regular season, though, in Kansas City.
This is true. Do you remember the score of that game? I just remember the score of the playoff game was like they scored like 60, almost 70 points, if I remember correctly.
I want to say that game was something in the ballpark of like 31-27, maybe.
Yeah, so the over and under of like 54, might be something that intrigues you. I have nothing on this game, except I'm just excited to watch it.
Yes.
I'd love to have a little wager on there, but one thing you're going to learn about me and Dr. Kyle as we go through this season with you, we're not going to force it. We're looking to hit that 55%. We're looking to beat the dastardly bookie. We're looking to put money in our pockets, and you can't do that going hog wild, betting every game. It can't be, oh, hey, there's a game on tonight. I better have some action. I'm cool with having action if it's action that we like. So, Dr. Kyle, I'm going to throw it to you. What is the week one game that you do lean toward, or one that you like and that you're going to?
I like the Cardinals +7 against the 49ers. They played San Francisco super competitively last year, and San Francisco is banged up in their wide receiver core. We're going to see regression with their defense. I think we're going to see progression with the Cardinals offense. I know. What's the phrase you used to describe Cliff Kingsbury that Jerry loves? He's a
crumb bum and a shoe clerk.
Bingo.
I mean, he's really more Chip Kelly 2.0 to me.
Yeah.
I don't have enough of a sample size to prove that, but that's really the feel I get. A much more handsome Chip Kelly 2.0. But keep going.
So I feel Rosalie was on a few weeks ago, and she got the tire spinning in regards to what the Cardinals could be this year. And like she said, the Cardinals played the Niners strong last year. We're going to see the Niners defense, I think, take a step back. They were a bit weak down the stretch last year, even though they got off to a hot start. And I think Arizona is going to come out firing. They're going to be getting up to the line of scrimmage quick, doing the Chip Kelly 2.0 thing. And I don't know if they're going to come away with it outright, but +7 feels really nice.
So I'm looking at the amount of points this team gave up over the last handful of weeks. So in week 17 against Seattle, they gave up 21. In week 16 against the Rams, they gave up 31. Against the Falcons, they lost and gave up 29. They gave up 46 to the Saints, 20 to the Ravens, and then they did only give up 8 to the Packers, where they absolutely shellacked them. And then they gave up 26 to the same Cardinals team. So the team that early in the season started off giving up points like 17-17, 20, 3-7, shutout against the Redskins, 13 against the Carolina Panthers. When they started playing teams with a little bit better offenses, all of a sudden the point totals came up. So I can completely, get with that. And they did play the Cardinals. They beat the Cardinals 36-26, and then in their second go around, I am looking 28-35 on Halloween. Beat the Cardinals by 3, and then that was in Arizona, and then at San Francisco they beat them by 10. So I don't hate it, and I don't think this defense is as scary as the point spread would make it seem, Kyle.
Agreed. Yeah. What do you got for us?
Well, I got a couple. So I got a lean that I really like, and I like it now more than ever. So my lean, and I have not bet this yet, but I want to see if the number goes up, because there's no point in being in a hurry. And that's Denver at home on Monday night. They were getting, the last time we talked about this line, they were getting 1.5 points at home. Mm-hmm. That number has now shifted up to 2.5 to 3. Ooh. Depends on where you get they're getting a field goal at home. So are you ready for a mind-blowing stat?
I hope it is a Broncos at home in the first 2 weeks of the season stat, because I don't know what it is, but it's like they are absurdly good. Let's go.
I actually have a Broncos at home over the first month of the season. So this will go from typically the first week of September through the first week of October.
Mm-hmm.
But that first month of the season, as teams are really getting into quote unquote football shape. And at home, and I went back the first 4 games, and I looked at home games. Sometimes there was 2, sometimes there was 3, sometimes there was 1. But going back to 2010, okay. 10 seasons worth, they played 30 total games at home in that first month standpoint, right? They are 24-6 straight up at home in that time period. I mean, Mile High City is a hell of a place. Denver, Colorado, and the Colorado Springs area is one of my wife's absolute favorite places to go vacation. We've been there many times. We've gone hiking. We were talking about working out and stuff. I consider myself someone in pretty good shape. And when that I'm not like pro athlete shape, but still, man, you get there and it just hits you different. Today I was listening to a podcast with Ross Tucker. Ross Tucker was a lineman with many teams throughout the NFL, and he was talking about the impact of this. And then he was talking about now you add in the adrenaline of week 1. You've not played any preseason games. And I've got a special Derrick Henry stat I'm going to get to later when we talk about player props. But I'm really liking this game. So right now it's a lean. I'm leaning to Denver at home plus the 3. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver won this game straight up. But that's my lean. But my bet of the week is I am betting the Washington football team and Philadelphia Eagles over the 43 points on my bookie. In week 1 of 2019, these two teams combined for 59 points at Philadelphia. I mean, that's like, 50% more, not quite 50% more than the current over and under of 43.
It's close.
And then in week 15 of 2019 at Washington, where this game will be played, these two teams combined for 64 points.
Wow.
So in their 2 games last year, they absolutely shattered this over of 43 points. And then I want to share a tweet from JJ Zacharyson, more of a fantasy football guy. You can find him on Twitter at Late Round QB. And he posted that the closest comparison to the 2020 offseason was the lockout season of 2021. In the first week of the 2011 season, 12 of the 16 games hit the over that week. So I've got history on my side. The most 2 recent games they played, and one of those was with Dwayne Haskins, who will be starting with the football team this weekend. Jalen Reagor was in practice on Wednesday doing quote unquote everything. So he could be out there, and the spread and the over and under tell me that this game should be somewhere around 24.5 to 18. And I really see this more of like a 27-21, 28-24 type game. So for me, I like and I will bet the over 43 at mybookie.ag. What do you think about my 2 games? Any comments, criticisms, concerns?
I'm going to ship you a couple 20s to throw down for me since I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, and if I win, I will ship you a couple of 20s back. But no, those are 2 games that I really like. Some of the other games that we liked a few weeks ago in our early preview, the Oakland Raiders at Carolina, that game has went from Carolina plus 1.5 to Carolina all the way up to plus 2.5, 3. Depends on where you get your numbers.
Yep.
And the other game that I absolutely loved was the LA Chargers at Cincinnati giving up 3. That's now been bet up to 3.5 or 4. And I won't touch it at that because I feel like that'll be a close game. I don't think Derwin James was the reason. I think that game's been bet in that particular direction. And remember, we're going to talk about some week 2 lines here in just a second. But the closer you get to game time, the sharper the line gets and the harder it is to beat. We didn't talk about the Monday night game, but when the Giants and the Steelers, when that line first came out back in, I think it was May, when these games first hit the board, the Steelers were giving up 2.5. And now that's up to 5.5, 6. And my man Steve Fezzik of Fezzik Sports on Twitter, he thinks it'll be bet all the way up to the Giants plus 7.
Wow.
And I may, man, that's a 4.5 point move. That's huge.
That's Big Ben elbow news move is what that is.
I think it's, people, really driving that number up. And I think Pittsburgh's went from a great value laying 2.5 back in like late May, early June to being over bet to where you now got to lay 6, and by game day it could be 7. So those are some of the week 1 games and lines that we like. Anything else in week 1 before we take a look ahead at week 2?
What was the over-under for the Bengals-Chargers one? Because I know you said it had shootout potential, and I agree. I felt like that one could be one where it smashes the over.
My biggest fear there is Cincinnati's offensive line.
Right.
The over and under in that game's 42. So you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of
24-20 is over.
24-20 is over. 20. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't feel comfortable with it. You're asking me to go over with Tyrod and Joe Burrow, a journeyman Jag quarterback and a rookie in his very first start in the NFL versus, I know they're short Derwin James.
Yeah.
That's still a mean secondary and a mean front four for the Chargers. So I don't think I like that one, but if you want to get a 20 spot down on it, anything else in week 1? Another game that's got bet way down. You were getting Green Bay plus 3.5 to 3. That game has been bet down to where it's Green Bay plus 2.5. So the lines are moving, and that's why it pays. If you love something early, we get down on it. So I've already shared kind of mine. I'm gonna let Kyle get into his week 2 bet. What have you seen in the week 2 early lines that you're digging?
The Saints are 4.5-point favorites against the Las Vegas Raiders, who 2 weeks ago were only 1.5-point favorites to the Panthers. I feel like that line is going to move closer to 5.5, 6 between now and that first game. Breeze is out for blood. Sean Payton, like that offense. I would be interested in seeing what the returning snaps on that offense is, because Breeze, Kamara, Thomas, Cook, even Latavius Murray, like staples of that offense for now or for years now. Oakland's going to be trotting out 2 rookie receivers who have all the hype in the world, but at the end of the day, they're still rookie receivers who've had an abbreviated offseason with Derek Carr. That was the one that looked like an obvious play for me. I avoided over-unders this week. It feels like a weird year to get on them early. But I think after I see how this week plays out, then I'll probably find an over-under that I like for next week.
All right. Well, I shared mine last week, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background music as to why I like it. Mine is, and I've already bet this. I bet my $101 free bet on Atlanta plus 7 at Dallas in week 2. And I think that number will shrink considerably after week 1. I think Atlanta will play Seattle tough at home.
Great.
And I think Dallas will have their hands full in LA with the Rams in that new stadium. So I'm interested to see what this line does once we actually see action on Sunday. Dallas over the last 8 games of 2019, they went 4-4, and only 2 of those wins were by 7 or more. They beat the Rams by 7, and they beat the Washington. They beat the brakes off the Redskins once they were officially out of the playoffs.
Right.
It was like the minute that pressure was released off of them, like a steamer or an Instapot. Once that steam was let off of them, they're like, screw it, we're not going to go to the playoffs anyway. They hung a beating on the Washington football team with the dead man walking coaching staff. So, and then Dallas. So over the last 8 games of the season, they gave up 178 points, which was 4.5, not quite 4.5 points a game more than they gave up over the first 8 games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 8 games of the season, they gave up 28, 27, 13, 26, 31, 21, 17, and 16. And then you have an Atlanta team over their last 8 games of the season. They went 6-2. And they had wins over New Orleans. They had wins over San Francisco. And they had wins over Tampa Bay in there. And their defense got, I won't say really tough, but when head coach Dan Quinn turned over the defensive play calling duties to Raheem Morris. I almost called him Raheem Mostert, but Raheem Morris over their last 8 games, they gave up 9, 3, 35, 26, 20, 22, 12, and 22. So I think that Atlanta's got the better defense. I think they've got just as good of an offense. And I don't think Atlanta has to go into Dallas and win that game. But I damn sure don't feel like Dallas is going to go in there and boat race them and beat them by a touchdown. I mean, the over and under in that game's 50 on mybookie.ag. So, I mean, they're talking 7 touchdowns plus a little. And I'm here for it. I'm a big fantasy player, as everybody knows, over at the Dynasty Warzone, and it's on turf. Weather should be good in the Jerry Dome, and I'm here for it. I just don't see them running away with this. And that Dallas defense that I just quoted the record over the last 4 games and the scores they gave up, I would argue that defense is worse. They brought in Gerald McCoy, who they lost the season to injury. They lost their best corner in Byron Jones. I think that secondary is a weakness. And last time I checked, the Atlanta Falcons have got a pretty good offense there in Atlanta. So, I just feel a shootout. I don't know that I'm willing to bet over 50 points, but I feel very comfortable early, and I'm already down on Atlanta plus 7. What were you going to say there, Dr. Kyle?
I mean, we talked about last week how we were both trying to sneak Atlanta into the playoff picture somehow. And that number 6-2 over the last 8 games with wins against the Saints and the Niners, that might be something I get in on before this week starts.
Yeah, I mean 8-1. I mean, even if you throw down, $25, it's 200 if you win.
Yeah.
It's not unfathomable to think that, 41-year-old Drew Brees and 43-year-old Tom Brady, like remember Peyton Manning's last year. All of a sudden, old Father Time blindsides you from the backside, and all of a sudden you look every bit of your 41 and 43.
All of a sudden he was Chad Pennington. Couldn't reach the hash marks.
All of a sudden you look like Phillip Rivers shucking, shot. Wait a minute, that's my quarterback. Forget Phil Rivers. We're moving on. Yeah, he's like doing. If you're watching on the YouTubes, you're doing that shit. All right, that makes a horrible sound on my terrible podcast here. All right, let's talk about some player props. You had one that you mentioned. Now, again, we can't give you official numbers yet because we could not find these anywhere. I've got a few numbers I got from my friend Lewis. Lewis is a resident of the beautiful country of Australia. He shared with us a betting site that had a few player props on there, so I will share these with you. But I will jump back on the live YouTube stream sometime this weekend and make this official once I have the official number. And that'll probably be the way we do it going forward. Kyle may even throw in an injury update on some players when he does his live YouTube stream later in the week. But Kyle, who were you looking at but couldn't find a line on?
Deontay Johnson. That Steelers-Giants game, I just feel like the Steelers are going to have their way with the Giants. I think they still call what the Giants have behind the linebackers. I think it's still technically called a secondary, but I don't think Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Deontay Johnson care too much about their second-rate corners and safeties out there. And Deontay Johnson is, he, as a rookie last year, I believe he led rookies in receptions last year. And that was with Jerry and Memphis at quarterback in Pittsburgh.
Hey, you know what? Would that – no, because I would have got my ass whipped. If someone hit me with a helmet, at least I would have got my ass whipped fighting back. But Jerry looks more like a duck. I mean, that's tough. That is tough. I like the Deontay Johnson, and very interested to see what that is.
If that's in like the 54.5 to 59.5 rate, 59.5 range. I mean, especially his big playability.
Yeah,
I'd take the over there
for sure. And who's going to be the defensive coach's focus? Is it going to be Juju or is it going to be Deontay Johnson? It's going to be Juju.
Exactly.
They're not going to get wrecked by Juju. So I could see him doing some damage. And their one corner, DeAndre Baker, is like on the NFI, the commissioner's list due to his off-season pulling a gun on someone nonsense. And you're right, that secondary is horrible. Now I love the offensive tackle they drafted, but this was a team that really needed some secondary help, and I don't think they have it. If anything, that offense was top 20 in New York, so I could see this game even being a little bit of a shootout. We're going to know a little bit more going into the weekend. This should shock absolutely nobody, but I am betting under on Derrick Henry week 1. So I do have some props again. Shout out to Lewis at FF_down_under. He does a ton of stuff for charity. If you're not following him on Twitter, he's a great dude. He hosts some podcasts. It's called the Fantasy Vault, and it's Australian based. And you know how I love me some Australians, all of them. Like I should be an Australian. But anyway, so some of the props I got from him from an Australian sports book, it has Derrick Henry under over 101 rushing yards, Derrick Henry over under 18 carries, Derrick Henry over under 13 receiving yards, Derrick Henry over under 2 receptions. The one that I really want to focus on, Dr. Kyle, is the 101 rushing yards.
Holy shnikes. Yeah.
This is Vegas robbing you. This is the bookie being exactly what I call him or her, the dastardly bookie. So, Dr. Kyle, did you know that Derrick Henry played in Denver last year?
I do now.
The Mile High City.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of his lowest rush attempt games of the season. He had 15. His lowest of the season was 13. Then he had 2 games at 15.
Wow.
But on average, he played 15 games that had 303 regular season carries. So he averaged 20 carries a game.
So significantly under.
He had 75% of his seasonal average in that game. So 15 rushing attempts, Dr. Kyle. How many yards did he rush for?
I'm going to go with 63.
How about you cut that by more than half? He had 28. He had 28 total rushing yards on 15 carries. And the loss of Von Miller does not bother me at all. Denver last year was 16th versus the rush as far as total yardage, and only gave up 9 rushing touchdowns all year. We mentioned earlier in the show that Denver is 24-6 straight up against opponents in the first month of the season. And do you know how many 100-yard rushers this Denver Broncos team gave up last year? Now, mind you, they played Dalvin Cook, they played Aaron Jones, they played the Colts, they played the Texans, they played the Titans. We just talked about Derrick Henry was not one of those 2. Oh, I just gave away the answer. It's 2. They gave up. Sorry, I was trying.
Wait, I got the answer. I think it's 2.
Ah, man, you're good at this game. No, they gave up 2 100-yard rushers all year. They played Melvin Gordon twice,
Okay.
Austin Eckler twice.
Yeah.
And throughout the season, they gave up a bunch of yards to Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette actually had 225 against them.
Wow.
I think that was the game where he broke that 180-yard rush or 69-yard rush, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then Devin Singletary had 106.
Wow.
Outside of that, Dalvin Cook didn't get a hundy. Aaron Jones didn't get a hundy. Marlon Mack had like 79.
Josh Jacobs twice, or maybe once if it was injured.
Yeah. So out of all those running backs, so for me, you get the hype of Monday Night Football primetime game. You get that adrenaline rush. These teams are going to fly in. They're not going to have a whole lot of time to acclimate because they don't want them to be in these strange cities and strange environments due to the possibility of COVID. I wouldn't even be surprised due to league rules. I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee didn't even fly in day of. I would actually love to find out that information because that could even cause me to bet the Denver +3. Because if you get there day of and you have no time to acclimate to that altitude, and my family has roots back to Tennessee, if you can't tell by my voice, but I can tell you it's hilly there, but there's a definite difference between Nashville and Denver. So for all those reasons, when I get an official rushing total on Derrick Henry, I will be betting the under.
Yeah.
Dr. Kyle, did I lay out a clear and concise case against?
Yeah, I'm going to the ATM tomorrow, cashing out a couple 20s, and I'm going to stamp them. I'm just going to write an address right on the 20, put a stamp in the corner, just write Memphis, Indianapolis.
Hey, man, we put a lot of work into these. And like I said, so far we've given out, 5 or 6 wagers that we like, and we may not Facebook Live. I don't really want to get into Facebook, especially around politics time. But we will YouTube Live some more. But remember, number one, never bet more than you should. If it even makes you slightly uncomfortable, bet half. And I have no interest. I don't need to. I'm not a professional gambler. I like to gamble to have fun. Makes the games a little bit more exciting when you're watching them. But I shared the story last week of Colin Cowherd. Again, this is a media mogul. This is a guy who's got millions of dollars, and he considers himself $100 a game bettor. So, he's clearly betting within his means. I'm clearly betting within mine, and I hope this finds you betting clearly within inside of yours. So, all right. So, with the gambling stuff out of the way, you ready to jump into some DFS?
Let's do it.
Let's get it on. So, we're going to start with you want to go cash game or tournament plays?
Let's go cash first.
All right, let's go cash. Is there a cash game play that you just feel like has to be in your lineup, that he is so solid that you just don't have any other option?
So for me, it's two guys in the same game. I'm cool with either of them, and it's DK Metcalf or Calvin Ridley. They're both cheaper than their wide receiver counterparts for their respective teams in that game with, what is it, a 50 or 52 point over under?
It depends on where you get your number. I think I've seen it 49 to 51.
Okay.
Depends. I mean, like I said, I'm looking at so many shops right now. Our main shop's mybookie.ag, and I can certainly get that number for you real quick.
Yeah, let's find out.
But go ahead. Give us some more of your rationale.
Well, it just has all the makings of shootout potential. So give me the cheaper options, but DK Metcalf.
Hello. Well, we have got Dr. Kyle froze up. We may have to boot him and bring him back. So I'm going to remove him and then re-add him to the screen and see what happens. So we will. Oh, wait, we have you. He's back, Dr. Kyle. You're back, buddy.
Yeah, guess who's buying a laptop this month?
Oh, well, we better hope that we do well this week.
Yes, we will.
So he is back. He is on the phone at this point. We can see it just fine. A little fuzzy, but nothing hampers you. So you were handicapping this Atlanta game and why you liked DK and Ridley.
Yeah, so for me, this game has all the makings of shootout potential, and with just DK being the much cheaper price than Lockett and Calvin Ridley being much cheaper than Julio, then I feel like you can't go wrong with one of them if it's going to allow you to pay up a little bit more for the tight end position for a Kittle or, a strong RB1 in, a McCaffrey or Barkley.
Okay. Well, for me, I went with Josh Jacobs. I'm going to have Josh Jacobs in just about every single lineup that I'm in. I think that spot in Oakland is a smash spot, and they're actually in Carolina. But how is John Gruden going to win this game? First game of the season, you got to fly all the way across the country. You want to get in, take care of business, and get out. You've got two rookie wide receivers starting. You got a second-year slot guy. You got Darren the Walrus. What do? You pound the ball, pound the ball, pound the ball. I think he'll be a very chalk option for this, for DFS and cash games on Sunday due to him being only 8,200 and a very viable option. I think CMC was 10,000. And I don't think he has the receiving floor, but I'm using FanDuel as my model, and I believe they're the half-point PPR scoring format versus DraftKings full-point PPR. Right. I love Josh Jacobs in this game, and I really think he's going to be more involved in the passing game this year. So he is my cash game play. Another one in all formats, Miles Sanders. The alleged hamstring injury does not make me nervous. I think he'll be out there. The alleged on a pitch count doesn't make me nervous. I mean, let me ask you a question, Dr. Kyle, especially as my injury expert. If his hamstring was, or his lower body injury was as bad as we've been told that it is, wouldn't they have signed somebody, or wouldn't they have done something to, have bolstered that running back room if he was really in bad shape?
Yeah, and they've had every chance to add depth to that running back or that backfield all offseason. And here he is, your quote unquote, as Deuce Staley said, potential workhorse for this year. And he's now shown for a couple of weeks that he's not even 100%, and they have not ponied up at all. My DFS this week is going to have lots of Eagles. I think I'm going to have Wentz, Ertz, Sanders, and then one other guy when we're talking my tourney pick.
All right. Well, go ahead. Well, I'll go ahead and roll into one more cash game play before we. I'm also rolling Devontae Adams this week. He absolutely abused I mean, abused Green Bay last year in the regular season.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Thank
Yeah.
you. He had in the Christmas game on 12-23, he had 16 targets, 13 catches, and 116 receiving yards. And then early in the season, he had 7 receptions for 106 yards. Feels like a smash. Oh, and by the way, the Minnesota Vikings got rid of all their cornerbacks, and the guys who are starting at corner this season, I believe collectively they have 9 starts under their belts. And now you're going to take on Aaron Rodgers. Now you're going to take on Devontae Adams, one of the best quarterback and wide receiver tandems in all of football, in a game where, Minnesota is usually pretty good against the run. And I just see Adams just absolutely gobbling up targets again, like he did in that 12-23 game. In a cash game. He feels like a very safe must-have this week. Anything on that before we start kicking into some tournament plays?
No, I love that justification for Adams this week.
All right, man. Why don't you give us your tournament play, guy that you're looking to be the secret sauce in a winner this week?
DeSean Jackson. I do not have his price on hand. If you could deliver that to the people for us. But we talked about.
Let me be the man of the people on FanDuel. He is going for 5,700. He's in the lineup that I continually refer to, so I can screenshot this out. I can share this on Twitter. This is the lineup I'm rolling. I got every one of these guys that I've mentioned. I've got Jacobs, I've got Adams, I've got Sanders, and I've got DeSean Jackson. Go ahead with your rationale for liking DeSean Jackson.
I don't know if anybody remembers. You already alluded to that first game of the season last year. DeSean Jackson ran by that Redskins defense, I think, 2 or 3 times on his way to, 150 plus and a couple touchdowns. I've heard that he's in the best shape in years. He finally took his off season as serious as he had to work out, and he is, torching corners in practice. And so for that price, with that upside, Rager, yeah, he's practicing again, but he's still a rookie. He's still a little bit banged up. Miles Sanders a little bit banged up. Carson Wentz is going to be chucking the ball. And, you already alluded to liking the over in that game. So give me one of the cheaper pieces with big play potential in DeSean Jackson.
Yeah, I've got him in my lineup. And actually, I had to pivot because originally in the lineup I keep referring to, I had Mike Williams.
Yeah, I did too.
I had to pivot, and based on the amount of money I had left on this FanDuel tournament in this play, I pivoted to Christian Kirk. You referred to earlier the San Francisco-Arizona matchup. Mm-hmm. And with DeAndre Hopkins drawing Richard Sherman, the number 1 corner, and not having quite the rapport of Christian Kirk with, Kyler Murray, and if Arizona, and I think a lot of people have a Garoppolo Kittle stack. By the way, I'm telling you my entire lineup. I also have a Kittle Garoppolo stack in this game as well. Well, how do you keep up? You got to throw the ball, and let's not pretend for 2 seconds that we're not capable of seeing the game that Christian Kirk had against Tampa Bay in November last year, where he had 6 receptions for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the kind of play that I'm looking for in a tournament to give me a legitimate shot to win the thing. So winning about Kirk, he was my pivot from Mike Williams. And who did you pivot to from Williams?
I pivoted to DeSean Jackson.
Okay, because that makes sense because all these guys were like sub 6,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
And so we're there. So, what the hell? I've already read my entire lineup. I'll go ahead and just give it to you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I've got Jacobs, Adams, Kittle and Garoppolo, Miles Sanders, Raheem Mostert, Christian Kirk, DeSean Jackson, and the Dolphins defense. I'm sorry. I am not afraid of Cam Newton one bit in week 1. I've yet to see him throw a football in any kind of coverage. That doesn't mean that he can't do it. But I know that the camp reports that I've read that gave me the statistics in camp, he was completing about 61%. And I don't know if Xavier Howard plays, but I know they added Byron Jones. I know they added Van Noy. They added a lot of talent to this defense. And I can tell you right now that Brian Flores and this Dolphins team is not afraid to go into New England and battle this Patriots team. And the Patriots are notoriously slow starters. Bill Belichick has looked at the first 4 weeks of the season as kind of his warm-up games.
Right.
So for all those reasons, I really like Miami's defense. They're $3,500. They're dirt cheap this week. You and I have already bet 2 bets on Miami combined. We've got Miami on the money line, and we've got Miami plus 6.5. And those are my justification for firing up the Dolphins this week.
I like it. Yeah. That's for the first time ever. I'm going to look forward to watching a Dolphins Patriots game. As a Cowboys fan growing up in the Northeast, if I ever dreaded watching Dolphins Bills, Bills Pats, Dolphins Pats, man, we can finally win something out of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. I'm very excited to see your YouTube live. You'll give us a little bit about when do you think you want to do that? I think Saturday would maybe be better.
Yeah, Saturday morning sounds great.
Saturday morning or maybe Sunday morning, a quick 5 or 10 minute. You can get that official line on Deontay Johnson.
Yep.
And you can give us some high level stuff, guys. If you want to get down in the weeds with some of these injuries, you can go on Twitter. You can find Dr. Jesse Morse, or you can find Dr. Kyle here, or you can find a lot of people. But if you're looking for the high level, Mike Evans, I know David Montgomery returned to practice. What are we seeing out of Rager? Yep. I would much rather bother you Sunday morning, have you take that iPhone, turn it around backwards, and give us a quick YouTube live video. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm looking for that prop bet on Derrick Henry, and I might drop another nugget or 2 on there. But I want to thank you for jumping in. We apologize for being a few minutes late tonight. We had some of them good old technological issues. We battled through one with Dr. Kyle.
Yeah,
he had to pivot from. So if you watch the DK Metcalf jersey giveaway videos, not 1 but 2. I had to go from phone to laptop, and Dr. Kyle went from laptop to phone. But that's the links that we'll go to here to help you set good lineups, to help create good DFS rosters, and to be on the right side of action, Dr. Kyle.
Amen. I want to go back to the video and see what my pit stop time was. I felt like I was pretty efficient from one to the next.
Well, here's the thing. For the podcast listener, you're never going to know it, because I'm going to clean that up a little bit in post-production. But if you want to see it live, you should be subscribed to the YouTube. You could have watched it as the whole thing was going down. But one thing, in 2 weeks from tonight, Dr. Kyle and I, we're probably going to start 15 minutes early. We're going to start at 9:15, and we've all been invited to be on a live stream over at the GOAT District podcast. It'll be me, it'll be Dr. Kyle, if he's able, and Jerry, along with Dan and JD of the GOAT District. We'll be chatting up some Dynasty Fantasy Football, probably some betting nuggets and stuff like that. But if you like the podcast, rate and review, leave us a 5-star, check out all of our wonderful sponsors. If you just go to Dynasty Warzone on Twitter or at DWZ Memphis on Twitter, all of our sponsors' promo codes and links are all right there. All you got to do is go there. They're also in the show notes of the podcast you're listening to. We've made it super easy for you to support us and to support our sponsors. And if you're not in a position to support the sponsors in that way, you can always leave us a 5-star. 5-star rating and review goes a long way toward helping us get different sponsors. So check us out. Check out our sponsors. And Dr. Kyle, anything on the way out?
I'll be quick, but I want to answer. There was one comment or question in the Patreon today about Montgomery having access to, he's a professional athlete, having access to the greatest, healthcare out there. And that's like a little bit of a myth. You would think that these billion-dollar teams with million-dollar assets would have the greatest PTs and ATCs, but at the end of the day, a little bit of a little pat on my back. But this is why some players pay my boss and I money to fly us out to them to work with them for a couple days before the game. I'm happy to talk more about that maybe on one of the YouTube lives, but just because Montgomery plays for the Bears, who are worth X amount of money, doesn't mean he's getting, jack shit return on that adductor. So, we'll touch on that more this weekend, but he's going to be a wait and see for me because he is not so involved in the passing game. And there's a little upside to start a guy like that coming off of an injury like that.
Yeah. I mean, why would you run a guy with a lower body injury that's questionable against the head coach that uses a pencil on a laminated piece of paper? That guy's crafty. He is luring you in. I'll tell you, I wouldn't start Monty unless you gave me a clean bill of health. And what's the point? What's the point in rushing them back? There's a lot of season, but I will also say similar to the Miles Sanders, they didn't rush right out and bring in, Devonta Adams. They didn't do, not Adams, Freeman.
Yeah,
Devonta Freeman. They didn't rush right out and make any of those sudden moves. So that gives me some hope. But I think if I was going to play a bear in the backfield this week, especially in a full point PPR format, it'd be Tariq Cohen. This could be a shootout. The last 3 times that Mitch Trubisky has played the Lions, he's had like 3 straight 3-touchdown games. And then we've all, raved and hooted and hollered for Matthew Stafford. So this could be one of those sneaky high-scoring games in Detroit. So a little something on the way out. Dr. Kyle and I will both drop you a live YouTube video. Make sure you are subscribed. It's at the Dynasty Warzone on YouTube. Subscribe, turn on the notifications, bada boom. And then on Monday, you'll get Matty Big Chest with some Dynasty Table Talk. We'll be in and out of the YouTube a lot of 5 and 10 minute videos just to wet your whistle, because there's nothing wrong with a good podcast on a live stream, right, Kyle? We like to podcast.
Amen.
And we like to party. But at the same time, sometimes you need information in real time. And that's the biggest attribute of the YouTube, especially with having a good doctor on staff. And speaking of Dr. Kyle, he is at DWZ_PT, and I am at DWZ Memphis. And remember, here at the Fabulous Big Bet, we want to remind you that money won is twice as sweet as money earned. We'll be back here live next week for week 2, and we'll be having some live videos. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great weekend. All right, we filibustered enough to get us about an hour.
Yeah, that was good. I think I'm always going to have something prepared to talk about at the end in case we get to like that 45, 50-minute mark and we need to fill her in.
Yep, we smoothed her over like spackle, kid.
Cool.
All right, man. I'm gonna go clean this thing up and
hopefully I didn't make too much extra work for you. My fault.
No, here's the thing. I sell that shit all the time to people.
Yeah.
But I can clean most of this up in about 15 minutes.
All right, good.
Now, if I wanted to get real anal about it and clean up all the ums and so's and everything and the buts,
yeah,
that would take about double the time. It'd take about 2 hours to do the entire show.
Yeah.
And you can hear a difference, but fuck it. They're here for the content, not for the smooth production value. So I'll catch you around. Have a great week, man.
You too, Memphis. Catch you later.
Anything you need down, my PayPal is just not my Gmail. It's fonteyoung@yahoo.com.
Fonte, Fonte.
Young. It's the same as my Gmail, except my PayPal's under my Yahoo account.
Okay.
So just send it to me. Tell me what you want down on.
Okay.
And I'll get you down on it. That way, as soon as I win, I'll try to get a Venmo set up at some point. You young hipsters like the Venmo, so I'll put that on my to-do list.
Sounds good.
All right, kid.
Later, Memphis. Talk to you.
Bye, buddy.